The gas station attendant saw Nina Hale's car leave the highway at a speed that made him step away from the windows. It crossed the empty forecourt beneath the white canopy lights and stopped crookedly beside Pump 6. The driver's door opened before the car had completely stopped moving. A woman stumbled out, leaving the engine running and the door hanging open behind her. She hurried toward the store without looking back. The attendant unlocked the entrance when he saw the terror on her face. "There's a man in my back seat," Nina said. The attendant looked past her. The forecourt was empty except for Nina's car and his own truck parked beside the building. He could see through the open driver's door. No one was sitting inside. "Did he threaten you?" "He hasn't said anything." "Did you see a weapon?" Nina shook her head. "He's just sitting there." The attendant took his phone from beneath the counter. He kept his eyes on the car while he called the police. Nina stood behind a display of bottled water, as if the shelves could protect her. 2 patrol officers arrived 9 minutes later. They opened every door, searched beneath the seats, checked the trunk, and examined the narrow space behind the rear headrests. They found no one. The attendant replayed the forecourt recording for them. It showed Nina's car arriving beneath the lights. It showed Nina getting out alone. It showed the officers searching the empty back seat. Then, seconds after the final officer stepped away, something appeared against the rear window. A pale hand pressed slowly against the glass from inside the locked car. 3 hours earlier, Nina had walked alone through the underground parking garage beneath the medical billing office where she worked. Most of the overhead lights had already switched to their nighttime setting. Only every third fixture remained illuminated. The empty spaces between them formed long sections of shadow. Nina held her keys between her fingers and listened for footsteps. She had developed the habit after several cars had been broken into during the summer. Her car stood exactly where she had left it, beneath a security camera near the exit ramp. Before unlocking it, she shone her phone light through the rear side window. The back seat was empty. She checked the floor behind both front seats. Nothing had been left inside, except a folded umbrella and a reusable shopping bag. Nina unlocked the driver's door, got in, and immediately locked it again. Her phone battery showed 11%. The drive home normally took 25 minutes. She sent her sister a short message saying she had finally left work, placed the phone in the center console, and started the engine. The garage gate rose slowly. Cold rain struck the windshield as Nina drove outside. Traffic thinned after she left the commercial district. Within 15 minutes, the buildings gave way to dark warehouses and stretches of undeveloped land. Nina kept the radio low while the wipers moved steadily across the glass. She first noticed the man when a truck passed in the opposite direction. Its headlights swept through her car. For less than a second, the rear compartment became visible in the mirror. A man was sitting in the middle of the back seat. Nina turned so quickly that the car drifted toward the shoulder. The seat was empty. She corrected the steering wheel and faced the road again. Her heart beat painfully against the seat belt. She checked the rearview mirror. The man was there. He appeared to be in his late 40s, although the poor light made his features difficult to judge. He wore a dark coat, buttoned high around his neck. His hands rested flat on his knees. His head was slightly lowered. Nina could see him clearly enough to know that he was not looking at her. She turned again. There was no one behind her. The folded umbrella rolled gently across the floor as the car followed a bend. Nina looked into the mirror. The man had returned. She told herself it was a reflection. There might be clothing hanging behind her seat, or an object on the road combining with the shadows. She adjusted the mirror upward. The rear window disappeared from view. For several seconds, she saw only the car's ceiling. Nina kept both hands on the steering wheel and concentrated on the wet road. A faint clicking sound came from above her. The mirror shifted downward one small movement at a time. The rear window returned. The man was no longer sitting in the middle. He had moved to the seat directly behind Nina. She could see only part of his face beside her headrest. Nina pressed the accelerator. The speedometer climbed, but the road ahead remained empty and black. Her phone had dropped to 8%. There was no signal in the low section of highway. She considered pulling onto the shoulder and running. The thought vanished as soon as she imagined opening the door beside the dark fields. If the man was real, stopping would place her within reach. If he was not real, she still needed light, witnesses, and another person to confirm it. A service sign appeared ahead. It advertised a 24-hour gas station 4 miles away. Nina fixed her eyes on the sign and continued driving. She avoided the mirror for as long as she could. Then the road curved sharply to the left. She had to check behind her before changing lanes around a stalled maintenance vehicle. The man was closer. His knees were almost touching the back of her seat. His head remained lowered. His hands no longer rested on his knees. They hung at his sides. Nina looked directly over her shoulder. The back seat was empty. She faced forward again. The interior of the car had become unnaturally cold. The windows began to mist along their edges. Only the section of glass behind Nina remained clear. She drove faster. 2 miles remained until the gas station. Nina raised the mirror again. She held it in place, but the reflective surface trembled beneath her fingers. A soft pressure touched the back of her seat. She froze. The pressure disappeared when she turned around. Nothing was there. She looked forward and refused to check the mirror again. The gas station's canopy lights appeared beyond the trees. Nina could see a man standing behind the store counter. She moved toward the exit lane. Something creaked behind her. It sounded like leather tightening beneath a person's weight. Nina's eyes lifted toward the mirror. The stranger was leaning forward. One pale hand rested on the driver's headrest. For the first time, his face was raised. He was not looking at Nina's reflection. He was staring directly at the back of her head. The fingers visible in the mirror tightened. Nina felt the headrest move beneath them. She turned into the gas station at full speed. Nina crossed the forecourt beneath the canopy lights and stopped beside Pump 6. She opened the door before the car had completely stopped. The attendant saw her running toward the store and unlocked the entrance. "There's a man in my back seat," Nina said. The attendant introduced himself as Marcus and told her to remain inside. From behind the counter, he looked through the store windows. The car's engine was still running. Its interior appeared empty. "Did you know him?" "I've never seen him before." "How did he get inside?" "He didn't." Marcus glanced at her. Nina understood how that sounded. "I checked the back seat before I left work." Marcus called the police. While they waited, he approached the car but remained several feet away. He moved from one side to the other, looking through every window. When he returned, he said no one was inside. Nina asked him to check the driver's headrest. Marcus had seen nothing unusual about it. 2 patrol officers arrived 9 minutes later. Officer Reed entered the store while his partner, Officer Alvarez, approached the vehicle. Reed asked Nina whether she had consumed alcohol, taken medication, or injured her head. She answered no to each question. Alvarez switched off the engine and removed the key. The officers opened every door and searched the car. They checked beneath the seats, inside the trunk, and behind the folded rear armrest. No one was hiding inside. "There was a man," Nina said. "He was sitting directly behind me." Reed studied her for a moment. "You've had a frightening experience, but there's no one in the vehicle now." Nina pointed toward the rear window. A large handprint marked the inside of the glass. Alvarez wiped the outside with his sleeve. The print remained. He opened the rear door and examined it with his flashlight. The mark was unmistakably on the interior surface. Marcus said it had not been there when he first checked the car. The rear seat cushion was also compressed behind the driver's seat, as if someone had been sitting there for a long time. The rest of the upholstery remained smooth. Alvarez reached toward the seat belt. It was fastened around the empty space. "Did you leave this connected?" he asked. Nina shook her head. She rarely carried passengers. Reed released the buckle. The belt snapped back against the pillar. No one spoke for several seconds. Marcus remembered the security cameras. They returned to the store and gathered around the monitor behind the counter. The recording showed Nina's car entering the forecourt. Only Nina was visible in the front. The back seat appeared empty. She ran into the store. Marcus approached the vehicle and looked through its windows. The officers arrived and searched it. Nothing moved inside. Then Alvarez closed the final door and joined the others near the store. 5 seconds passed. A pale hand appeared against the rear window. It pressed slowly against the glass from inside the locked car. The fingers spread. The palm remained there for several seconds before fading into the darkness. Marcus stepped away from the monitor. That wasn't there when I looked. Reed replayed the footage. The same hand appeared again. Its wrist ended in darkness. There was no visible arm or body behind it. The officers returned to the car. The handprint remained on the glass. The rear seat belt was fastened again. Reed stared at the buckle he had released minutes earlier. It began to tremble. A moment later, it opened by itself. The metal tongue swung gently beside the empty seat. Alvarez tried the rear door. It was locked. Nina still held the only key. Reed called for a tow truck and instructed Nina not to approach the vehicle. The car would be taken to the secured police garage and examined there. A patrol car would take her to the station. The tow truck arrived 20 minutes later. Nina sat in the front passenger seat of the police vehicle while Alvarez spoke with the driver. Her own car was pulled onto the flatbed. As the truck began to leave, its side mirror caught the gas station lights. Nina saw her car reflected on the flatbed. Its back seat was empty. She felt a brief wave of relief. Then something creaked directly behind her. Nina looked at the patrol car's rearview mirror. The stranger was sitting in the back seat. He had not remained inside her car. He was now close enough for Nina to see the rainwater shining on his dark coat. Officer Reed entered the driver's seat. He looked over his shoulder before closing the door. The back seat appeared empty to him. Nina faced forward and said nothing. In the mirror, the stranger slowly raised one hand and placed it on the seat behind her. Officer Reed drove away from the gas station, while Nina watched the patrol car's rearview mirror. The stranger remained in the middle of the back seat. His wet coat reflected the passing street lights. Nina looked directly behind her. The seat was empty. When she faced forward again, he had moved closer. He now sat directly behind her. Reed noticed her staring at the mirror. "Is he in here?" Nina nodded. Reed glanced at the back seat. "I don't see anyone. My car is going in the opposite direction." Reed looked toward her. "What?" "It wasn't attached to the car." Reed returned his attention to the road. He told Nina not to look at the mirror. She lowered her eyes and held the sides of her seat. For several minutes, nothing happened. Then leather creaked behind her. A shallow depression appeared in the rear cushion. Reed saw it form. The indentation deepened beneath the weight of someone neither of them could see directly. The rear seat belt slid away from the pillar. It stretched across the empty space and clicked into its buckle. Reed reduced his speed. "You saw that?" Nina asked. "Yes." Don't stop." Reed reached for his radio and reported the disturbance. His transmission returned as broken static. The dashboard screen flickered. A warning indicated that the rear door was open, although Reed could see that it remained closed. The interior temperature dropped. Moisture spread across the rear windows. A clear oval remained on the glass behind Nina, as if a face were resting close to it. Reed tried the radio again. Only static answered. The nearest police station was 12 minutes away. He increased his speed and told Nina they would continue directly to its secured garage. The road divided ahead. Reed had to enter the left lane. He checked the side mirror, hesitated, and then glanced at the rearview mirror. His expression did not change. Nina understood that he still could not see the man. She looked despite his warning. The stranger's knees were pressed against the back of her seat. His face was partly hidden behind the headrest. One hand rested beside Nina's shoulder. She closed her eyes. The hand touched her. The pressure began lightly on her coat. It grew until her shoulder was forced downward. Nina cried out. Reed looked toward her. The fabric of her coat was sinking beneath the shape of invisible fingers. He reached across and struck at the space behind her. His hand met nothing. The pressure vanished. Nina opened her eyes. The stranger had disappeared from the mirror. The rear cushion slowly returned to its original shape. The seatbelt remained fastened. Reed drove faster. Streetlights appeared ahead as they approached the station. Nina tried to believe the worst had passed. Then the headrest behind her moved forward. Fingers pressed into both sides of it. Reed could see the material bending. Nina could see the stranger in the mirror. His face hovered inches behind her head. His eyes were open now. They were fixed on her reflection. Nina lowered the mirror, but it slowly tilted upward again. Reed grabbed it and forced it toward the ceiling. For one instant, the glass reflected the entire back seat. Reed froze. The color drained from his face. "You can see him," Nina whispered. Reed did not answer. In the mirror, the stranger was no longer watching Nina. He was looking directly at Reed. The patrol car swerved across the center line. Reed corrected it and accelerated toward the station entrance. Behind them, the seatbelt released. The stranger shifted across the back seat until he was sitting directly behind the driver. Nina felt the pressure leave her shoulder. Reed's seat moved forward beneath an unseen weight. He kept his eyes on the road. "How close is he?" he asked. Nina looked into the mirror. The stranger leaned toward Reed. One pale hand rose beside the officer's head. "Don't look again," Nina said. The secured garage door began to open ahead of them. Reed drove toward it without slowing. As the patrol car crossed the threshold, a hand settled on his shoulder. Reed stopped the patrol car inside the secured garage. The metal door closed behind them. He and Nina opened their doors at the same time and moved away from the vehicle. The rear doors remained shut. 2 officers entered the garage after Reed called for assistance. They searched the patrol car, while Nina and Reed watched from behind a concrete barrier. The back seat was empty. The seatbelt had returned to its normal position. No handprints marked the windows. Reed removed his coat. 5 dark impressions remained on the fabric above his shoulder. Nina checked her own coat. The marks that had pressed into it were fading. Reed asked the officers to review the garage cameras. The recording showed the patrol car entering at high speed. It showed Nina and Reed getting out. For almost a minute, nothing else happened. Then the rear passenger door opened. The seat cushion rose as though a heavy person had stood up. No one emerged from the vehicle. The open door remained still. A dark shape passed across the polished side of another patrol car, but the cameras showed nothing moving through the garage. Nina looked at the black computer monitor beside the security desk. Her reflection appeared on its surface. No one stood behind her. For the first time since leaving work, she felt alone. Reed was not as fortunate. He kept glancing at the reflective window beside the garage office. Something moved behind him whenever he turned away. Nina asked if he could still see the stranger. Reed did not answer immediately. "I saw him in the mirror," he finally said. That was when he moved away from me. Reed looked toward the empty patrol car. Nina understood before he did. The stranger had not chosen a vehicle. He had chosen a driver. It remained with one person until another driver saw it in a rearview mirror. Reed ordered another officer to take Nina home. Before she left, she warned him not to drive. Reed promised he would remain at the station. Nina traveled in the front passenger seat of a different patrol car. She watched its mirrors throughout the journey. The back seat remained empty. Nothing touched her shoulder. Nothing followed her into her apartment. Reed stayed at the station for another 2 hours. He completed his report and attached copies of the gas station and garage recordings. The hand on the window was visible in both files. The stranger was not. At the end of his shift, Reed requested a ride home. Every available officer was responding to a collision on the highway. He considered sleeping at the station. Then he looked through the garage window at his own car. It had been parked there all night. No one had approached it. Reed convinced himself that the stranger might have remained in the patrol vehicle. He took a flashlight and crossed the garage. Before unlocking his car, he inspected the back seat through both rear windows. It was empty. He opened the rear doors and checked the floor. Nothing was hidden inside. Reed sat behind the wheel and locked the doors. He did not look at the mirror. The engine started normally. He reversed using the side camera and drove out of the garage. For the first mile, he kept the rearview mirror pointed toward the ceiling. No unusual sound came from behind him. The temperature remained steady. Reed began to believe Nina had been wrong about the transfer. A vehicle entered the road behind him. Its headlights filled his car. The rearview mirror shifted downward beneath the vibration. Reed saw the back seat. The stranger sat in the middle. His hands rested flat on his knees. His head was lowered. Reed struck the brakes and turned around. The seat was empty. He faced forward again. The stranger had moved directly behind the driver's seat. Reed reached for the door handle. It would not open. The electronic locks clicked repeatedly beneath his hand. The rear seat belt extended across the empty space and fastened itself. Leather creaked beneath a growing weight. Reed drove toward the nearest illuminated building. It was less than a mile away. He kept his eyes away from the mirror. The stranger's hand appeared on the headrest beside Reed's face. Reed could see the pale fingers without looking at their reflection. The headrest bent forward. Cold breath touched the back of his neck. Reed finally raised his eyes. The stranger's face filled the mirror. For the first time, his mouth moved. No sound emerged. Reed understood the words anyway. "Look behind you." The car continued down the empty road. Reed did not turn. In the mirror, the stranger smiled and placed his second hand around the other side of the headrest. He had not followed Nina home. He had only been waiting for someone else to look.